during the moment where I don't think Magneto's on any of these covers. He's not. They're Sinister just being a douchebag. And I got Apocalypse. Nothing with Magneto on the cover, oddly enough. Oh, okay, just the original cover. So there's Magneto. So during the scene where Magneto was looking at Rogue on the boat and was like, oh, Rogue, and I love her and all that stuff, they had 3 people next to her. 2 people were off to the side, and it's like, oh, that's Wanda and Pietro, so that's Wanda and Quicksilver. And then they had another character that was to the right of Rogue by herself, and also, covered in black. That was Polaris, who is Magneto's other daughter, who does exist. If I'm not mistaken, one of the random things from having gone through the show and actually remembered some random stuff, Polaris is in the original series in literally 1 episode. And it was a really weird episode. All I remember is that they were like at a cabin at one point or whatever, but Polaris was like with another team, or was like up. I think they like took the storyline of, it's like one of the other X-Men stories where it was like there was a team before, like Scott and Jean and all, and there was like another team and they all died, and then it was like, you guys are my first team actually, and then there was like a secret first team. I think that was the storyline that they took, if that even existed at the time. But Polaris showed up, and I always remember that because I knew who she was even when I was rewatching the show, and I was like, that's super weird. Is she his daughter or not? Because they don't reference it in any way, shape, or form, but it was definitely Polaris, and she had the green hair, and if I'm not mistaken, they even call her Polaris. And I was like, that's weird. I wonder if she's Magneto's daughter in this. So I don't know if they're even going to touch on that, her being a part of whatever that team was. Because like I said, I don't 100% remember that episode, but I remember she was a part of a team, and that was like a whole thing where it was like, I think Scott may have dated her. Scott he'd be with whoever. So I think that was a part of the storyline, was that they kind of dated for like half a second or whatever, but she was definitely in the show before. And that was like the 1 episode. So the fact that they actually had her there, which it was also super weird that they even clouded the characters out. Cause I'm like, well, Wanda and Quicksilver were both in the original series. So it was weird that they didn't have them just like in full color, cause they had like the full design, but they chose to black them out. I thought that was weird. I know that he was focusing on Rogue, but it still just seems super weird to even bother putting them on there. It was like, just put her there if you're not gonna have him reference his children. Just don't put the children there. It would seem super weird to me because I was like, well, those are your kids. And like, I know it was like, oh, Rogue, I loved her, but I was like, well, you got like 3 kids. Why? Like, they shouldn't have put him there, because nerds like me would be like, why didn't he reference his children? Like the 3 children that he has. So it was just a funny moment to be like, oh, Rogue. Like, what about the 2 kids or the other kid that's like barely even in the original series? So I thought that was funny, but I wanted to touch on that because it caught my attention. But I loved everything they did with that. I'm excited to see, like I said, what they do with any of the characters, honestly, because I'm just like, well, it's been so long since the original series. There's a lot that we could probably ignore from this. Also, here's Dark Phoenix on the back there. But there's a lot that we can ignore from this where it's like, oh, we'll tweak this or we'll change that around a little bit, and it's not that big of a deal. So I am very curious because, like I said, if they do touch on it, there's quite a bit that they can talk about. Because like I said, she was in like that 1 episode, but if I recall correctly, she was a part of a former team. So there's some stuff, to kind of reference there.